pro-poor, how to destroy poverty, how to reduce poverty. And then, when we have all that data in place, we can now look at designs that are specific to the different categories of affordability. And I think Nigerian workers, because I do a lot of work with the TUC, we need to get the workers involved. A lot of young workers, they don't have houses to stay in. They come to Abuja from far off zones. Some of them even live in Nasarawa State, some in Niger State. Those that live in Abuja, Kubwa, Kuje, Lugbe, when I heard how much they pay for, oh my God.
Well, Dr. Gbagbe, the government has been working on that for a couple of years, and I think some significant improvements have been achieved within the last 5 years by the current administration. I'll cross over to Chuma. Chuma, I'm sure you're aware of, since we're talking about government policies now, but I'm sure you're aware of specific policies targeting the growth of SMEs, as well as other programs by public agencies helping to build capacity and human capital. In light of the impact of COVID-19 on the business environment, what kind of tweak do you envisage or hope for as we look ahead?
Framework of governance, really. We have all the good ideas. We have all the good ideas that we want to implement, all the good policies. But I think one of our biggest challenges, one of our biggest problems is over-centralization. So you don't have these policies getting down there to the grassroots. I think we need to redesign our entire framework so that when these good policies we create are implemented, it would get to the end. I will give you an instance.
Okay.
If you take what's happening currently in this pandemic and how the palliatives have been shared, clearly our framework is flawed. I mean, even if with all the government's intention of feeding every citizen, it cannot do it because the framework of our existence is flawed. So if you derive from what Doctor is saying about focus on housing, I totally agree. Look, if you turn this country to a construction jungle, crime will drop. Living standards will improve because people will not be idle. People will be earning, and they can take care of themselves. We will build houses. Even if we borrow the entire money to do this, that activity will be able to generate. Imagine going on building rail lines to connect every state capital in Nigeria. That project alone, and houses and the cities that will develop alongside those tracks, and all the value chain, how it will trickle down. But basically, and most importantly, is that we need to start allowing our government, we need to decentralize our government. Government needs to get down to the grassroots. Most of these policies should be implemented by the local governments.
It's quite interesting. I have two guests. One Dr. Gbagbe, who has a medical degree but with bias in real estate. Chuma, I know also, I mean, has some linkage of bias in real estate, in housing for that matter. But gentlemen, let's try as much as possible to try to make our discussion more expansive and look at more generic issues of investment opportunities in areas, because you seem to be focusing purely on housing. Dr. Gbagbe, I'll ask you the same question that I asked Chuma earlier with regards government policies targeting the growth of SMEs and businesses. What kind of tweak would you like to see as we approach the post-COVID-19 era?
Right. To be very clear about this, the housing thing is not because we just have a bias. Don't forget, I'm a strategist, I'm a business analyst. I've looked at the different economic factors in this country. And without bias, I mean, I wasn't born a builder, for goodness sake. But having studied all the sectors, even energy, even agriculture, I discovered that housing is such a silver bullet. But let me go to government policy. Let me be specific. Do you know that SMEs can do best when you have a sector that can engage them? For example, artisans. There's no other industry I know. Agriculture is similar, but agriculture has a challenge, which I will leave for another day's discussion. But today, SMEs, if you go into the construction industry, okay, maybe that word housing begin to look too much in this Zoom conference. Look at the welders, look at the carpenters, look at the electricians, look at the people that do the roofs, look at those that do ordinary carpentry work, all manner of bank of industry should begin to focus more on housing. The block making industry alone is driving so much job creation. Okay? The carpentry industry alone, if we have a very strategic sector that can absorb this youth, that can take them in and have an exit. One beauty why I love housing, excuse me, Mr. Nnamdi, is that the affordability factor can be factored into their payback. You talked about mortgage finance earlier on, right? With mortgage finance being structured now, Federal Mortgage Bank is doing a great work, the new management, Family Homes Fund. This administration is one of the most responsive so far for housing. You can take my word for that, without bias. The Buhari government has been able to float something called the Family Homes Fund. There's a brilliant young man there, I won't call him a young man, Femi Adewole. What are they doing? It's about social impact housing. They are building thousands of houses across the nation to help the low and middle income earners. Why that is going on? What's happening? Jobs are being created. Okay? And when you look at Federal Mortgage Bank, they now have cooperative loans. They have what they call the rent to own. A lot of houses will come on stream. Every house, don't forget, Nnamdi, carries jobs. So government policy should not just be like Chuma said, paperwork. It should be targeted at the individual. The sector must create impact on individual Nigerians. And that's what I see. Not only in housing, by the way, agriculture can do the same thing, right? You can also do the same thing, by the way, with just simple, like you said, job creation for youth around the health sector. Okay? But housing for me is like an integral, it integrates a lot of other value chains. And with digital revolution in place now, we can do data drives. I mean, I have a capacity by working with other stakeholders to drive even 1 million Nigerians into a digital off-takers affordability webnet.
That'll be advertising on my platform, Dr. Gbagbe, so I won't let you do that. Chuma, I'll come back to you and I'll ask you to back up a bit and take you back to the issue we talked about earlier with regards what is topmost in the minds of the teeming Nigerian, well, let's not use the word unemployed youth now, but those aspiring to become entrepreneurs like yourself. Give me a sense of the feelers you're getting out there from your interaction within, across board now, not just in design alone, but across board now. And I do know that you also have a platform to reach out to youths and young people across Africa. Give us a sense of some of the feelers you've been getting so far.
Okay, so as entrepreneurs, I think what we have is hope. We've never lacked hope, and we are very optimistic. The optimism is at an all-time high. I mean, this is a reset button for all of us. For me and the couple of persons that are close to me, we've also had the opportunity to use this time to reflect, redesign, refine, and we are now about to refire. So, I mean, we've never had this opportunity because as an entrepreneur, you are always on the go. You keep going. But this has been able to put a pause, a stop to all of us. And we've now looked at all we have. And people are really beginning to think. Innovation has already started happening, actually, because it's said that necessity is the mother of invention. So it has become necessary that we look at our ventures. I mean, entrepreneurs are beginning to look at the staff, their colleagues at work and say, okay, who is relevant? Who is who should we keep and who should go? But even the people that work in any enterprise are also asking themselves, both the employee and the employer, everybody is reappraising the situation. So I think this opportunity provides us that rare window to really refine and fine-tune what we're doing across all sectors, across board, and become literally what I would call literally effective. So it's about lean, mean teams, lean, mean, trim, and effective teams, basically. Yeah, it's really the reflective part of it. We are all reflecting.
Chuma, we're fast losing time, but I'll give you an opportunity, or I'll give an opportunity to get your final thoughts on some of the issues that we've raised. You've talked about the reading of business ideas. You've talked about existing gaps and the imperatives for filling these gaps. I mean, at this point, what's the projection in terms of opportunities out there and how we can grab them? I mean, the Nigerian youth now, in the spirit of resilience in spite of the challenges. I mean, for you, what do you see in the coming years? And this will be your final thoughts, Chuma.
I'm excited, really. I'm excited because giving us the rare opportunity to be able to take on the opportunities that are inherent, and there's just a lot of them. I mean, we're already taking the opportunities, and so a clean slate, a blank white sheet is always a child's playground for an entrepreneur. What we will do is up to us. The world is on stop, and it's giving us, and when I mean us, I would say Africans, the opportunity to say, look, we can actually survive on our own. We can start doing things for ourselves by ourselves based on our reality. That opportunity is what I would say is getting people like me excited, and we are just raring to go. We're just waiting. I mean, for one, I'm just waiting for the world to have some semblance of reopening and to take on this opportunity and see what we can do. There's just a lot to solve. There's just a lot of problems to solve, and that is
the solutions are out there. Very quickly, Dr. Gbagbe, I'd like to get your final thoughts on some of the issues we've raised.
Yeah, well, I think to summarize,
and very quickly too, Dr. Gbagbe.
To summarize, we're looking at the value chain, an integrated approach, simplifying service delivery, and integrating with the government policies to target the off-takers, the individuals in any sector. And don't forget, I suggested we should look at the sector that can best integrate the different value chains. And that's why I propose the affordable housing sector. It's been exciting, really, talking with Chuma across the nations because of Zoom technology. Zoom has increased their value by God knows how many percent. I think they're about $50 billion now.
Indeed.
So technology is going to play also a central role.
Unfortunately, we're out of time. I would have loved for us to talk about the issue of information technology transformation and how much it has impacted across board. I mean, whether in agriculture, whether in housing, real estate, like you've said, or whether in design. I mean, it's fascinating and it's been quite impactful. Gentlemen, thank you very much indeed for your thoughts on investment opportunities in Nigeria amid COVID-19. Chuma Anagbado is an entrepreneur and co-founder. Omaro Uno, a designer operating out of Lagos. Dr. Joshua Egbagbe is a business venture analyst with buyers, like we said, in real estate. Thank you both for coming on Insight.
Thank you, Nnamdi. Thank you, viewers. Thank you.
It is quite important to note that there are opportunities out there, especially for startups. I guess innovation is the key word. From business now, we'll move on to politics. June 12th is now synonymous with democracy in Nigeria. I reckon many still remember June 12, 1993, and what transpired to inspire the designation of June 12th as Democracy Day in Nigeria. Well, for those too young to remember and those born after June 12, 1993, why don't we give you a quick recount of the events of that day and a bit on the man in the center of the entire episode.
So much has changed in Lagos State since the year 1993. But sometimes when you listen closely, you could still possibly hear some of the ghosts of June 12. In the Alakpere Ketu axis of Lagos, a giant reminder stands. Towering 46 feet above ground level, this memorial statue depicts the persona of the man caught in the center of the June 12 story.
SDP, MKO, Kidibe, action. MKO, Kidibe, SDP, progress.
It may or may not have been the TV campaign ads, but for sure, Nigerians were clearly intrigued by the man, Moshood Kashimawo Olawale Abiola. The legend of MKO Abiola had spread far and wide prior to the June 12, 1993 presidential election. The streets were livelier, the people more eager. Electioneering campaigns had sparked a fire that mostly burnt out religious and ethnic preconceptions amongst Nigerian voters.
The amazing thing about it was so orderly, it was so free, visibly free, and the fairness was palpable. And we felt like heroes. Our country has done something right.
Indeed, June 12, 1993 started as a very good day. As the day progressed, It carried with it the spirit and hope of inclusiveness collectively expressed by millions of voters. The result of the June 12, 1993 presidential election was never completely released and never made official. But something which emerged from the voting pattern and was rather quite glaring was the confirmation that the voters' choice clearly went beyond ethnicity and religion.
My proud state of Kano, who had a candidate, but we felt that our candidate may not have been the best, and therefore will vote for another candidate. And that role played by Kano in delivering so many votes to the MKO Abiola is one of the positives we remember from that outcome.
It is true that the presidential election was generally seen to be free, fair, and peaceful. However, there was, in fact, a huge array of electoral practices virtually in all the states of the Federation.
The truth of the matter is that you do not have two sunrises in one day. Even in Africa, the sun rises only once a day, and that is the way it is. The people have made it very clear that that is what they want.
The sun did rise and set on June 12, and the accompanying darkness was frightening. The protagonist in our story was known to have said something quite profound at the time, and I quote, "Democracy came at a price, steep but totally worth the people having their say." End of quote. The June 12 story has several heroes, but one stands out. But there were many other characters at play.
In any event, there will always be the heroes and there will be the villains. But the good thing is for us to forgive and forget.
What it tells us is that history matters, that it does not matter how you act, history will take care of everything.
By sundown on June 12 and the break of dawn the next day, the story continued. The June 12 story is definitely one for posterity.
Quite interesting, I dare say. Well, now I'll hand you over to Elizabeth Omori for the media review segment.
Thanks for joining us on the media review segment this week. Since the outbreak of coronavirus, nations have resorted to the use of ICT to solve basically human and economic problems. Now, as a nation, how have we leveraged on ICT? My guest, who has 15 years experience in this field, will be telling us, and he's Nasiru Danjuma Usman. It's nice to have you in our studio.
Nice to have you too. Thank you.
All right, tell us about how to leverage on ICT.
Definitely, as you know, information communication technology has been a world-class moving services of delivering services via short distance. What I mean by short distance, without you going through the airways, the road, the rail, and things like that. And with the coming up of COVID-19 currently in the world, people that see ICT as a new service that we cannot leverage and we cannot service it, we don't want to follow technology, choose to, because technology is the major and most effective means of delivering service. A lot of Nigerians here, like the entrepreneurs, started creating how to market their products through the how to sell their services through the because I see a lot of people that started doing catering courses through through WhatsApp, through Twitter, through Instagram. And when I saw from one lady, the lady had 800 followers that paid for the course. And again, means of delivery, because in most cities there's this bike delivery system that was allowed during the window of the COVID. A lot of people leverage on that towards technology and deliver those services. It encourages and supports the nation to like a wake up. Though it's a bad epidemic, but it became like a wake up to we, especially in Africa and Nigeria.
Okay, so how do you think this has changed the game for the media?
It has changed to the media because the ways of information gathering, before the media has to get to every root and corner of information service, but with the support of almost everybody in the e-services, getting your fact findings, your fact information through some video coverages based on all these virtual reality things, it became easy. So the operational expense of you getting your fact became lower, and the time in turnaround time became also shorter.
All right, let's take, for instance, the housing sector, for instance. What is the layout? How has this transformed the sector?
Basically on the housing sector, which is normally not an e-based thing, but because of the necessity of lockdown and safety for both the workers on site, the suppliers and everything, most people that were moving with technology use technology in making their decision of purchases and delivery. What I mean by purchases and delivery, a normal real estate guy has to go to the market, spend a day choosing tiles, choosing roads, choosing toilets, but due to the necessity of lockdown and the effectiveness of technology, a lot of people introduce even their lay suppliers to, gentlemen, get me these videos, or if you don't have a website, get me these videos, send to me, I make my decisions, you deliver them, and the people in my site, they do the video of the receiving, whereby transferring just virtual records to the administrative people, and administrative people updating it. So the turnaround time, it's reduced, and I don't even see people in real estate and other sectors going back to the normal way of business, because a normal thing that you spend a week now, with the necessity and with the effectiveness of technology, you can use hours to take the decision. You can use a day to get the delivery, and whereby it reduces all those logistics expense and other operational costs in the construction.
Okay. I'd like to take you back to the issue of entrepreneurs. ICT is involved now. People can display their goods, what they do, they can train and all that on the internet. Now, connectivity is an issue.
You see, based on the data even used by users and the telecommunication service providers, they're in the game of profit, they're in the game of numbers. Yes, more or less some part of the social responsibility and some part is a business responsibility because they have to report numbers. Now with the data that they have seen during this COVID period and with the SMEs, if you look at the people on the low class, averagely based on data provided, they use the phone more, they use the data more than the high-profile people. So from that data, every service provider can do the analysis and know that, yes, these are the places I need to go and deploy more of my service. Because it's a business sector. Yes, the government has laid the infrastructure for them, has laid the policies for them, but still it's left for them to reach the root. Because when you look at, it's just like, if you look at the data of banked and unbanked Nigerians, the unbanked Nigerians are more or less like 70%. But in still that 30% that are banked, a lot of them don't use technology. But with the necessity of this COVID movement, you have to buy certain things, you have to pay certain services, and a lot of people opted to go back for the e-services in the financial sector. From that, going back into the e-services of the financial sector, that means a lot of people in the society, a lot of the unbanked, they have to all go back to the data services. By going back to the data services, it's like waking up the service providers to do more, because if they don't do more, there are a lot of entrepreneurs from the high end, both local and international, that are looking at this limitation and this vacuum to come and take over it.
Okay. I believe you agree with me that COVID-19 has changed the face of interaction to an extent. Now, for some businesses, for those that are employed, some will lose their jobs. Employers will fall back to ICT. What will be the fate of those that will lose their jobs? Of course, ICT has its own advantage and disadvantage.
You know, everything in life, it depends on the way you look at the mirror of every aspect of life. Everything has advantage and disadvantage. It's just like too much comfortable child get to be pampered and get to be lazy. Sometimes some take advantage and get to be more active in life. The laid-back child sometimes get to accept it like a destiny and get to be weak. Some take it as a challenge and move up. It's just like the parents, the teachers. A lot of schools during this COVID have to create an e-system. Some that they don't have the technology, what they did, they just created using the WhatsApp platform, some the Instagram platform to start doing programs. Why are they doing all these programs? Yes, it's for them to stay in business. And so if today technology is taking away your business, it has to do with what have you been doing first for capacity building? Yes, we know a lot of people will have to go. But when you look at, we are from the Nigerian sector, part of the world, we are too comfortable with the paid job. There are people that said during this COVID, it's like a wake-up and a turning point for them in their life. So it's really sad for you not planning to retire, not planning to change sector, and you just get maybe a 30 days notice that you're going. But it's a wake-up call for us to think ahead and to always be productive. When I mean productive, not just on the job, but thinking of a life out of the job. Because I personally have changed career 3 times or 4 times. So if I can change careers, somebody else can. Some needs a startup capital to change, but I always tell people that the most important asset is the brain. And the brain is not that you have everything in it, you research. That's why in every walk of life, that is what they call capacity building. You see women in the house that they are fully housewives, but they are studying so as just to serve the house, to learn from friends, to learn from technology, how to cook, how to take care of babies, how to do everything. And that's why they keep on, the marriage keeps on moving. So even people that are thinking, oh, their jobs might be affected, have to think out of the box, or rather out of the building.
So thinking out of the box is very important now.
It is.
Post-COVID-19.
It is a must.
A must.
Yeah.
Okay. For the public sector, how do we drive this? There's so much interaction in the public sector.
You see, a lot of the interaction in the public sector is just the fear of the unknown. And you see, an average human being is too scared and skeptical of change. Change, definitely, the aim of change is a positive result, but change can come aggressively engineering. So we are scared of change, and the comfort in the public sector, people, just like this COVID-19 era, government people are paid, private people, some were paid partly, some were not even paid. So you see, if you know that if you don't get this, you won't be paid, if you get this, you won't be paid. So it's just about for the public sector to go back and make more emphasis on the KPI, key performance indicator, because you see some people are actually redundant, where other people know that their sector and their department that are working, it's very active. If they are not uncompetitive, if they are not on top of their toes, on top of their games, definitely they'll be out of that department. So for those people in the public sector, it's left for the HR or the administrative department to go back to the setting criteria of watching the key performance indicators for the people and improving. That's why they're meant to train and retrain, so as to move on top of the game.
Okay. Are we fully leveraged on ICT?
Definitely, we have not.
Okay.
But the platform is there. It's just like...
and why are we not using the platforms?
I can say lack of knowledge.
Okay.
Because you see the average man in Nigeria use a very expensive phone, but when you take that phone and look at the phone, the person uses just like 20% of the functions of the phone. So we're just a classic environment, showing up of the things. But if we are really using the services of the technology that we have, a lot of our operational costs, some people might even go say, I'm not working for the public sector anymore. I want to go private, because they'll get to see that their startup capital is just their phone, their data, and their brain. That's all. So if we are really leveraging on that technological services, what we have on the platforms we have, on the services providers that we have, we are not even using 50%.
So what's the way forward?
The way forward is for the public sector needs to enlighten more people. The services providers is not just about selling because they're getting the money back. They need to do like a social responsibility to enlighten people more, to educate people more, not just looking at the profitability aspect of it. In their corporate social responsibility, they should take it downwards to personal social responsibility, from their staffing to the rural areas, enlightening people, because even this education, there are some education that you don't need to go back to the classrooms because of the technology. And we have the services way back, years back, but we don't even know it's COVID that wakes up people, COVID-19 that wakes people to it. Just last week, I had a call from London School of Banking and Finance. There was a course I was meant to go for, but this COVID made me not to go. They made the course into E. You will see Wharton University in Pennsylvania going E. You see Harvard going E. That is the course I went for in 2016 in Harvard. Now they are doing it in E. So if the world-class countries on technologies are all going back to do E, and the services, you're still getting it online real-time. If you can get those services from Nigeria online real-time, then that means we had the platform. It's just that we are not utilizing it. So now that it's becoming a necessity, we're waking up and we're learning and we're getting to use. See the governmental meetings that is being... Now imagine the operational expense, the risk, the hazard that it has reduced. Do you think the government would go back to every governor coming to Abuja, every director sometimes coming to Abuja?
It will even save cost, save more lives.
That's the operational expense. You know, and that's the part of the health hazard. And those man hours that they are meant to do on air, on the road, will be used for them to think well, act more. Definitely in every week, executive council or economic council, for the people to get to those meetings, like the economic council, they need minimum of a day or two. So those, imagine now in a month, every governor is going to get more 4 or 8 days to work on, just because he is doing virtual programs. Every minister will be in his office, his people will be waiting for him, he will just do the virtual meeting, 1 hour and it's gone. Imagine the cars, the fuel, the drivers, the risk, you know, all those things. It's taking off. Train the staff more.
Of course.
Let's promote bonuses for the staff. It can be, there is a way of incentives to move up.
I want to thank you for your time. And I hope when we call you again, we'll have more time to talk. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. ICT is key, so let's leverage on it.
That's it. Thank you very much for watching. But join us same time next week for more on Insights. I am Nnamdi Odipo.
And I'm Elizabeth Omori.
Nigeria, a nation of great people. Different tribes and languages, yet we are united in our diversity. All over the world, Nigerians are known to be very hardworking and resilient people. In our history as a nation, there have been many storms, but just like the eagle, we always soar very high above the storms. Together, as a nation, we stood against Ebola virus disease in 2014, and we conquered. Together as a nation, we shall stand against COVID-19, and we shall surely triumph. Let's do our part as citizens, obey the health authorities, stay at home, practice social distancing and proper hygiene. When this is over, and very soon it will be, we shall dance again at the Calabar Carnival, the Eyo Festival, Felabration, Ojudeoba Festival, and Aragongo Festival. When this is over, and very soon it will, we shall flock the beaches again. We shall attend our music concerts again. We shall invite the world once again at the Lagos City Marathon. When this is over, and very soon it will be, we can return to our hustle and bustle. We will gather at our churches and mosques. We shall return to our schools and institutions. Our hope is alive. We are Nigeria. And together, we shall rise again. Nigeria Film Corporation, powering possibilities.
Akili, 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 akili.
Of the rail revolution in Nigeria is not just for the movement of people, but also cargo facilitation, which in turn will unlock trade, stimulate investment, and create wealth. With the laying of tracks of the standard gauge almost getting into the seaport in Apapa, there is a new opportunity at this corridor. It is the resuscitation of the freight operation through rail, which has been dormant for months. Now, the opportunities this will create are enormous, as there is excitement among investors that a batch load of train is equivalent to 19 trucks. For those doing business at the Apapa corridor, it is a huge relief from the gridlock. The prospect of freight operation through rail is our focus on Panorama from the Lagos Network Center. I am Hingino John Adams. We will be right back. We begin with an update on COVID-19. On the 7th of June 2020, on the 8th of June 2020, 315 new cases of COVID-19 were confirmed in 14 states of the Federation by the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NCDC. The breakdown shows that Lagos has 128, FCT 34, Rivers 32, Edo 28, Oyo 22, Kaduna 20, Gombe 13. Others are Ogun 8, Plateau 5, Delta and Kwara 7 each, Kano 5, Bauchi 4 and Katsina 2. Total confirmed cases in the country now stands at 12,801. 4,040 discharged persons with 361 deaths recorded. And Nigeria is leveraging on the COVID-19 pandemic to improve the nation's healthcare system and infrastructure. Chairman of the Presidential Task Force, Boss Mustafa, while reviewing the national response, says molecular laboratories have been increased from 2 to 30 within 100 days since the first index case was confirmed on February 27th this year. Mitaire Ikben reports.
For the Presidential Task Force, building the nation's capacity to respond to COVID-19 and other infectious diseases was part of the strategy that characterized 100 days of national response.
The number of laboratories in the COVID-19 network has increased from the bare minimum of 2 with which the Nigerian Center for Disease Control started with to 30. Over 80,000 tests have been conducted in the country. Over 13,000 health workers have been trained, increasing the human resource available for case management, and more personal protective equipment and ventilators have been procured and prepositioned across the country. The number of beds available for isolation and case management has increased from 3,000 beds to about 5,000 beds nationwide.
The Minister of Health and the Director General of the NCDC updated the nation on the outcome of investigations into the mysterious deaths in Kano, as well as the rising cases in Abia.
The verbal autopsy that we spoke of revealed that about 56% of the deaths had occurred at home, while 38 were in a hospital. The investigation suggests that 50 to 60% of the deaths may have been triggered by or due to COVID-19.
We know people in the Southeast travel a lot, so there was no reason why there wouldn't be more cases there, given the tendency to travel. So from the very beginning, we were always worried about insufficient data coming out from the Southeast. Initially it was thought to be about testing, but we've improved the testing, access to testing capacity now.
Protocols are being fine-tuned ahead of the resumption of evacuation of Nigerians abroad.
The key part of the proposal is that there will be a need for Nigerians that are currently outside the country to undergo a PCR test for COVID-19 before they board. These tests need to be valid at least for 14 days. In other words, if the test is done beyond 14 days, then it will not be accepted.
Before the industry comes back, we would inform the public, we would sensitize the public what our intentions are and what to do and what we expect of you
I'm happy to say that we have about 3.6 million individuals, households that are currently in the National Social Register.
The public is advised to disregard speculations on school resumption on social media, as no date has been fixed yet.
We want to be only able to open when it is safe to do so.
With the coronavirus pandemic far from over, state governments were urged to provide adequate security around isolation and treatment centers to avoid abscondment of patients. In Abuja, Mitaire Ikwen, NTA News.
Still on COVID-19, health workers are to receive their April and May COVID-19 hazard allowances this week, as capturing responsible for the delay in payment has been resolved. This was the decision reached by the Minister of Labour and Health after a crucial meeting with health workers in Abuja. Emmanuel Ayimiro reports.
Understanding reached in April this year by the federal government with health workers to pay new hazard allowances to cushion the effects of COVID-19 is now being transmitted to a memorandum of action as government retained all COVID-19 hazard allowances for various categories of health workers. A development that brought smiles on the faces of health workers at this meeting.
The issues or rumors that is going to be reduced is no longer tenable. I mean, it's been clarified by the Honorable Minister of Labour that there is nothing like that and that we are going to be duly paid. In less than 2 weeks, certainly, we know a lot will make Bangam.
Both ministers of Labour and Health assured health workers that government will keep to its side of the bargain.
Hopeful that government will get some other funds to pay for June. Thereafter again, we'll look at July, August, and September.
The issue of communicating the specific decisions at this meeting to the institutions or health institutions affected in respect of medical workers who are retiring at this point in time, rather than going out there seeking for volunteers, those who are already in the system can be accommodated to help at this trying time.
Apart from the COVID-19 hazards allowances, which was reviewed upward, the Employees' Compensation Scheme for workers who sustained injuries or infectious diseases and a life insurance package have been reactivated to encourage workers at the front line. Emmanuel Ayemiro, NTA News.
In the meantime, as part of measures to foster more harmonious working relationship between the police and citizens in the enforcement of COVID-19 guidelines, the Inspector General of Police, Mohammed Adamu, has unveiled an operational guidelines and regulations for the Nigeria Police and other law enforcement agencies in Abuja. Francis Form has the reports.
The increased reported cases of domestic violence, many say, are linked to the COVID-19 restrictions. Deepening respect for the right of citizens, as well as providing new set of policing tools for tackling domestic violence, rape, child molestation, and other gender-based incidents are now on the stream, courtesy of the Nigeria Police. The Inspector General of Police, Mohammed Adamu, says the recent unfortunate developments prompted the introduction of these operational guidelines to coordinate and reshape the conduct of personnel and other law enforcement agencies in the lines of operations.
We had issues of group of people seizing the opportunity to commit one form of crime or the other. This handbook is also addressing such situations when it arises under the COVID-19 pandemic situation.
The IGP has also ordered strengthening of the Gender Desk Unit and the juvenile welfare centers across the country and the deployment of investigative assets to deal with gender-related offenses. In addition, the IGP equally directs the Force Provost Department, X Squad, the Public Relations Department, the Complaint Response Unit, and the Public Complaint Bureau to carry out oversight roles of adequate evaluation and monitor officers to ensure compliance with the guidelines. In Abuja, Frank Sisfom, NTA News.
And now, away from COVID-19, President Muhammadu Buhari has described as reassuring the giant strides being recorded by the Nigerian army in the ongoing counterinsurgency operations and urged the service to neither relent nor be lenient with the criminal elements as efforts are intensified towards making Boko Haram a thing of the past. The president stated this while granting audience to the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Tukur Buratai, who for the first time made public the casualty figure on the side of the terrorists. State House correspondent Adamu Sambo has details.
For over 2 months, the Army Chief, Lieutenant General Tukur Buratai, had been in the front line with officers and soldiers committed to putting an end to the menace of Boko Haram and other criminal elements in the northeast. He is here to give President Muhammadu Buhari details on the military operations, achievements recorded so far, and the next plan of action.
The troops' morale is very high, while in the field there, some of them are even ready to stand between me and the bullet. They are ready to take the bullet for me. So I'm very much impressed and happy with my officers and soldiers. So far, over 1,429 of these Boko Haram terrorists have been neutralized, and we have arrested over 116 Boko Haram terrorist informants, their spies, and their couriers on logistics, and their coordinators in the villages, in towns, and even in the forests. Our intelligence corps, along with the Department of State Services, and of course our good friends, the civilian JTF, have worked very hard to see that this is achieved.
President Muhammadu Buhari described as fulfilling that efforts made so far in the renewed fight against terrorism and insurgency have paid off, and applauded the troops for exhibiting high sense of courage and patriotism.
As far as the operation in the Northeast, Mr. President is happy, highly elated, and this is an encouragement to me and the troops. And I urge them to maintain this high standard of operational capability, so that not only in the Northeast, other troops in the other areas are also will do the same. Just like what is happening in the Northwest. The troops are determined. We are giving them the necessary support. We are reinforcing the troops in the Northwest. We are also getting more equipment for them to operate with. The overall plan is to rid the whole of the Northwest, and of course, imagine threats that are coming up in the in other parts of the country, especially the North Central, and of course, South West, Southeast, and the South. So it's a comprehensive approach to tackle any insecurity that is emerging.
The Nigerian Army, Lieutenant General Buratai, however, said will continue to synergize with other services and security agencies in the task of securing Nigeria for effective service delivery. From the State House, Adamu Sambu, NTA News.
This is Panorama coming to you from the Lagos Network Center. We pause here for a break. More reports when we return.
Coronavirus is real. Steps to avoid this pandemic. Wash your hands regularly or sanitize your hands. Keep social and physical distancing. Avoid crowded places. Stay at home unless absolutely necessary. Don't touch your eyes, nose, or mouth if your hands are not clean. Avoid the spread of coronavirus. Coronavirus is real.
Thanks for staying with us. The initiative of the federal government to use the rail system of transportation to accelerate economic growth is receiving a boost. This is sequel to the resuscitation of freight operations through rail at the Apapa Seaport. Michael Olale reports.
Endless queue of trucks scrambling to gain access into their Apapa ports. It is a necessary hurdle that must be crossed unharmed, but businesses are feeling the huge losses with yard occupancy growing on daily basis. The advocacy that a multimodal system of transportation could be the answer to this challenge informed the reactivation of the rail system of transportation at the seaports by the federal government. This service was in existence but put on hold for operational reasons.
We only expect this to get better. Ask me why. Because the standard gauge is just at the other side. What we're trying to do today is what? Start with this SOP on the narrow gauge so that by the time the standard gauge gets in here, it will just ride on an existing functional system.
The expectation is high as investors are already counting the benefits, especially as it relates to enhancing operational efficiency and cost reduction.
What we agreed now is 2 trains a day. I mean, it just to set off the operations. We intend to scale up to as much as 4 trains in the nearest future.
The Nigerian Shippers Council brokered the deal based on its persistence that the cost of doing business in the shipping subsector could be reduced by 35%.
We also expect that in those areas where the delivery points, there may be investments, PPP basis, could be private people, they could have warehouses, they could have trailer parks.
With this initiative, it is the expectation of key players that the calmness and serene atmosphere Apapa was once known for will soon return. In Lagos, Michael Olale, NTA News.
Now, to speak more on the rail revolution in the country, via Skype, is the Managing Director of the Nigerian Railway Corporation, Fide Okiria. Thanks for joining us on Panorama this afternoon.
Good afternoon, Nigerians.
Okay, we just watched a report by Michael Olale. Can you just tell us more about the project?
We have been zealous of trying to help importers and exporters to go by rail because of the peace of mind you have when you go by rail. And we've been doing this for a very long time. We are going to the dry port in Kano, Kaduna, Fontua. But as the economy was going up, I think the interest and the railway went down. The interest of moving by rail also went. But now that we are at least coming up, we are encouraging our customers to come back. But we started with short distance during this past 2 years, and at the time it became difficult. And we thank the Executive Secretary of our Council who have brokered this peace because it's good for Nigerians. Either you import or not, ordinary citizen. What's happening is that they expect us to have goods that are coming out before we can take in export, or we have export before we can take goods, which should not be the case. Because we are not importer, we are only carrying goods for people. But at yesterday's meeting, it has resolved that we can move in our goods, either export or import. So depending on the direction we have, because if we save the road, if we save the pain standard gauge track in the port. But before we link it with the standard gauge, which when we finish, we can take load to the Badandra port. But those going to the north can still move by narrow gauge, and we can't afford to stop that. So that's why we are quite generous and happy that yesterday event took place.
All right, let's talk about coverage now. What are the locations the service will cover?
Presently, we can take load to Kaduna. You know, we have the what you call it, island port in Kaduna. So we are moving for them. At the time, we had a problem with the bridge close to Mina, but we have fixed that. We are ready to go. Before COVID, they were trying to give us some containers, I think 40 containers to go. But COVID came and the interstate movement stopped. Now that things are looking better, and people are getting adjusted to the discipline to cope COVID-19, we are hoping within the next 2 weeks, we should be able to move interstate. So we move to Kaduna. At the same time, we are pressing to move from Port Harcourt port, because the congestion you have in Lagos is the problem we have in the ports. But right now, we have the restoration of track in the port affected our access to the port, which the minister is looking to seriously. So if we do that, we have the capacity or line to move from Lagos up to Kano, and then up to Kwara Namoda, that's Fontua, where you have the upcoming dry port. So we can go to the north. But what we are very effective on is that the short distance, moving to Ibadan, moving to what you call Jola, Joko, Equipment, and because there are some people that encourage themselves handling equipment within those.
That's a very great news.
40 containers, but 40 containers of 20 foot. One can take 20 of 40 foot containers at a foot.
That's a very great news, and I know many Nigerians will be very, very happy hearing this. Now, talking about networking, networking the whole 6 geopolitical zones through rail, is the project still ongoing?
Right, it's ongoing. It's a dream, and it's coming to reality. You know, this project started the Kaduna Abuja, and that has for 4 years now been up and doing. And we receive more coaches, but we are trying to encourage people to us go back. We have some wagons for groups. Unfortunately, there are no enough industries that really require to move cement or this apart from Kaduna to. So that's why we are. Thank God the government has approved the Ibadan to Kano, and the effect of that is that we start from Kaduna to Abuja at the same time. We start from Ibadan to Lorry, so that the longer the distance, the better for people to move goods. And it is very worrying. It has been the track has been completely finished. We are doing skeletal service not commercial services, but now we are going to add more 10 coaches to that, and we have already wagons movement.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Engineer Fidet Okiria. I know you have a lot to tell Nigerians. Thank you so much for sharing your views with us.
It's a pleasure. We just please understand it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Moving on now, the Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board, JAMB, says the candidates who sat for the 2020 edition of the Unified Tertiary Matriculation Examination, UTME, will soon know the cutoff marks of the different courses they applied for. Candidates can now also go ahead and print their results. Head of Public Affairs of JAMB, Fabian Benjamin, stated this in an exclusive interview with NTA News in Abuja. Olainka Ojo reports.
To decide on cut-off mark for admission into tertiary institutions in Nigeria, a stakeholders policy meeting is usually held in large auditoriums with representatives from all tertiary institutions in the country and other key players in the education sector. The JAMB 2020 policy meeting to decide this year's cut-off marks will be a departure from the norm, as it will be virtually conducted due to COVID-19. While no new dates have been announced for the conduct of the Senior Secondary School Certificate Examination and that of National Examination Council, JAMB says the board will begin admission of new students for 2020-2021 academic session for candidates already with SSCE and NECO results.
We will go ahead with the process and also see how things unfold. If we are lucky, or if the candidates are lucky, and the whole thing maybe goes down, the two examination body will conduct their exam and will be good to go.
The Minister of Education, Adamu Adamu, is expected to chair the JAMB 2020 policy meeting. Olayinka Ojo, NTA News.
Now sports updates.
The clamor by some stakeholders for the resumption of the Nigeria Professional Football League. They explained that restarting the league at a time leagues across the globe are planning resumption will assist the country gain